Now, once you know um, what area you want to work in and you've identified a few professors that you could potentially be supervised by, we need to move to approaching your professor. There's a real myth around approaching professors. They're inaccessible or they're intimidating or they're only looking for A students. Now, you know that can't be true because otherwise it'd be really difficult for the entire class to do thesis. Um, However, almost all supervisors are going to ask you to look at your credentials, and you need to be aware that expectations for students vary across different instructors. Okay. One thing we have done for you, and this is also on the thesis site, is to develop a set of interviews with uh, supervisors who have done a fair number of engineering science theses. And they cover topics around how to pick a supervisor, what you can expect, what you'll get, some of the common pitfalls, and some valuable final advice. So if you look at these interviews, you can see there are a variety of different professors from a variety of different fields that are giving you some advice on how to pick a supervisor, what you can expect, and what you can get. And you can see these again on your portal undergraduate site under the thesis section. Um, what is important, however, is that you don't approach a professor empty-handed. So start by doing some background research on the professor and their research group, such as reading one of their recent papers. Okay. Um, Consider professors that you had a course for or have worked with for summer research in the past, um, or consider a professor you've worked with before, asking them for ideas or suggestions of who to work with in a specific field. Okay. Finally, um, you can come to the professor with a specific project in mind, but you'll probably have to be a bit flexible in terms of how that project will fit into their own research program, and how well they're prepared to supervise you in that program. So it'll depend on their expertise, what they want to accomplish with the project as well. But this is something that is a point of negotiation, right? You should probably have something in mind that you're not particularly fixed to. Your TAs, mentors, and upper years will be a good resource for you, particularly people going through the thesis process this year. And I would speak to them about your experience too with their experiences with specific professors as well. Remember, it's not just about finding a professor who will take you, it's about finding a professor who will be a good fit for you. Okay. We have some supervisors who have given us some feedback about what they're looking for. Um, and most of them, will suggest an email to start, right? So an email with a current CV or resume and rosy marks attached. Um, Something that shows why you're interested in that particular research area or that research group. And here, really don't just show that you've only read their website, right? Do more than that. Um, Establish why you're interested in a particular project. Um, Make sure that your email is polished and free of errors, because that tells us something about how careful you're going to be in the research process. And reply promptly. So make sure you check your email just in case you get a response, because that says something about your professionalism and your enthusiasm for their particular project. Okay. So, these are things that supervisors have said in terms of what they look for in the documents. Definitely document any research experience you've had, and who you've had it with, um, and identify the skills you developed during that research, and also what you did. It's very easy to talk about what a specific lab is doing, but you had specific tasks. Hopefully, you can identify what those are and explain what your results were. Most supervisors will say that good grades are a real plus, but they're not mandatory, right? They can be made up for in different ways. Again, here's this comment about a polished resume and a polished covering letter or email. Um, Errors here make us doubt your accuracy in the lab, which is going to be a bit of a big deal. Now, what they look for when they interview, and typically a prof will interview, um, most profs have identified enthusiasm as being the number one thing they look at, right? So if you don't seem genuinely excited and engaged during the interview, then they're going to see problems with that as you're in the doldrums of doing the real research. Okay. Um, just like a job interview, you should really prepare for it, right? So you should come in ready to talk about that research area that you've expressed interest in, and be prepared to talk um, about why you're interested in that particular area and what you hope to be able to accomplish in that thesis. Um, One thing that is key is also the ability to talk intelligently about a past project, right? To be able to describe what you did, um, why you did it, how you did it, and what the results were, and what the significance of that project was in terms of either your skill set or its contribution to the field. Another important thing to do during the interview is to listen. One of the things that profs will do will describe potential research projects that you could be involved in, and showing that you've listened carefully and thoughtfully by asking simple but insightful questions into that particular project will go a long way with that professor as well. But in most cases, that interview is around a gut feeling or first impression. It's a lot like a job interview. It's something that can be established within the first couple of minutes. So definitely professionalism, politeness, enthusiasm, uh, really good listening skills are all key in establishing that first impression for you. You should come to the interview with some questions to ask as well, right, around the specific research opportunities that they might have at this time. Maybe the structure of the research group. Who do the undergraduate students work with on a day-to-day basis? You may not be working with the prof as much as you are working with their graduate students. You might want to ask about what the expectations are of an undergraduate student. And you can ask the prof that, or you can look through the documents in the thesis library to see what they have, what expectations they have as well. Some supervisors will not supervise a half-year thesis or a full-year thesis. They might prefer one or the other. So it's important that you establish that question early on if you have a preference for one or the other of these. Finally, there are a lot of other things to consider. And remember that you are also auditioning this supervisor as well to see if they're a good fit for you. So try to figure out in that interview whether you like the way the professor thinks or works, whether you're going to be comfortable with the work environment or the work style, okay? Whether you're genuinely interested in the research they're willing to supervise you on. And you can definitely meet with more than one professor before making a decision. But it's very it's very important for you to follow up with each professor that you've met with to say, yes, I'm interested. Can we pursue this further? Or, I've gone another way in establishing what my thesis is going to be on. And then another important reminder from students who've done this project in the past, you have the ability to leverage yourself to find a project that's right for you. It's not always about finding a supervisor who will take you, but finding the right fit for your interests, your project, and your career goals. So keep that in mind as well. Other students suggest, talking to friends that are current graduate students or who have worked in the labs that you're interested in. It's very popular to go after high-profile professors, but it's important to remember those professors may not be able to give you the amount of time that you would like. And there may be really good up and coming professors who will give you more time and the attention that you may need. Okay. Even the students identify that the first thing that the profs will want to see is some sort of enthusiasm or research, right? Nobody really wants to read a cookie cutter email that suggests that all you've done is copy and paste from their website. Um, Build something specific and relate their work to your interests, and kind of build on that rather than just, kind of state that you know what field that they work in. Uh, this student has a really good suggestion. Really don't ask a huge number of professors. Be a little bit more careful about who you're asking. If you ask a whole bunch of them, and then you don't wind up working with these professors, does it impact your relationship to that supervisor or professor, insofar as it might make a course with them in the future awkward? Yeah, those are all possibilities that you should think about. And even though professors know that you're auditioning in a sense, it can be a little bit challenging to negotiate it if you've asked that many people. Okay. Finally, it's also possible to have co-supervisors, so more than one supervisor, and that's a really interesting and valuable route to take, particularly if your project is an interdisciplinary one. So think about that as well.